New figures now reveal that the UK's poorest households are worse off since Labour took power.
Well, it's set to get even bleaker, apparently, with families across every income bracket facing a new squeeze on their finances as higher bills and tax rises bite this year.
And the data from Retail Economics shows that the UK's most affluent households are faring better under the government.
Let's talk to former Conservative advisor Jennifer Powers, who's here. Jennifer, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I mean, look, in a way it comes as no surprise, but it's the exact opposite of what Keir Starmer said he was going to do.
Yeah, well, we've woken up to the opening shots in a political battle over the economy, which I think will dominate the early months of 2026. And I think what this latest report shows is the difference between the government's stated preferences and its revealed preferences. So it says that it cares about the cost of living. It talks about wanting prosperity, wanting growth. That's the number one priority. And yet we have the reality of their policies, which is the exact opposite. The report shows that discretionary spending, so, you know, the amount of money we have left over at the end of the month after paying for things like housing and food and transport, is being squeezed, especially amongst those least well off.
So there was that phrase, those with the broadest shoulders should carry the heaviest burden. That doesn't seem to be happening if this is the way around. But I put it to you, we get a lot of the Labour politicians saying, oh, but we, you know, because of the past 14 years and da-da-da-da. So in your view, how much of this is really due to the last 14 years? And if you were to apportion a percentage,
oh goodness,
what percentage would you apportion to the Labour Party?
Well, I think what's interesting about this report from Retail Economics is that it looks specifically at the 14 months from when Labour was elected until October of this year, and is able to really quantify the impact it's had across different economic groups. And here we find that those that least able to bear the burden are the ones impacted the most.
I mean, this is interesting, though, isn't it, about everything that the government said it wanted to achieve from taking office. When you actually look at the economic policies they've employed, they don't seem to achieve anything that they want them to achieve.
Well, and this is why I said, you know, stated preferences versus revealed preferences, because they state that they want to tackle the cost of living crisis. They say they want people to feel better off, and yet the impact of what their policies are is very, very different. And you know, the report
is that an indication then that? I mean, look, I'm no economist, but it's about taking a wider view. It's about taking a step back and saying, right, we need to do something which perhaps would appear on the surface to be counterintuitive, but actually will achieve the result that we want. And that's what they're not doing. Well,
I don't know if it's counterintuitive, but it's certainly things that perhaps are not instinctively left-wing or kind of hard left approach. And, you know, the Prime Minister's in a difficult position. He's obviously, you know, not got a huge amount of popularity, not just in the country, but within his own party. And so, you know, he's been pushed by the left to do things like, you know, the Employment Rights Bill, which puts up costs, freezing the tax thresholds, which is bringing people on all different incomes, is putting up their share of tax, because when we move the bans, or i.e. when they don't move the bans, more and more people are caught.
Fiscal drag.
Yeah, fiscal drag. And so we're all paying more in tax, whilst inflation is still an issue for many, and prices in general are high, and that means there's less money left over at the end of the month.
There's nothing more important than keeping your money and your identity safe online. And with so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. But this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GB News viewers. ExpressVPN is offering up to 75% off, plus 4 extra months free. That's top-level security from just £2.49 a month, and you're covered by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code now. Remember, when you're online, you are often sharing personal data, so hackers can steal your information, your passwords, your photos, and your bank details in just seconds. But ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. So why choose ExpressVPN? Well, it couldn't be easier to use. With just one click, you are protected. And ExpressVPN uses military-grade AES 256 encryption, which is the same standard trusted by the US government to guard their classified information. With their new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely. Live chat support is available 24/7, and it typically connects you in under a minute with a real person. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 months extra for free. Start protecting yourself today with ExpressVPN.
What about, in reality, the three things that they said that they wouldn't raise, national insurance, income tax and VAT, surely that was a foolish thing to do.
Well, I mean, where do you start? There's probably a laundry list of things.
But that's the beginning, isn't it? Those are the things they said they wouldn't do. They've already done it anyway with the national insurance.
Yes, I mean, they broke, if not the letter, the spirit of the law in terms of rising employer NICs in the first budget. And then we've had the fiscal drag you talked about. So in that sense, another incident of maybe not breaking the letter, but definitely breaking the spirit of the pledge, because people's income tax is going up now for a second year under Labour. And so no, it's getting harder economically. I mean, we don't need to tell that to the viewers. I think people are feeling that in their own personal budgets. I know I've cut back. The report talks about people cutting back on discretionary spending, and I know I've certainly done that over the past year.
Because they weren't anticipating the behavioural changes that people will make to accommodate the changes that they've made. So by increasing NI on employees, it then meant it meant that employers would no longer take on more staff, which means less tax take for them, therefore they'd have to raise taxes. Also, the VAT increase on private schools, school fees, absolute madness. I think it's to raise 1.6 billion. Well, that was dependent on other factors they have no control on as to how many people will take their kids to those schools. Sure. Of course, people took their kids out of the schools so it seems a lot of their policies are based on variables that they cannot control.
Yeah, I think this is, politics, and it's all about trade-offs, and they've made their decisions and seem intent on continuing down that path, despite the fact that, we know from this latest report that it's really impacting those, especially on the lowest incomes.
All right, Jennifer, thank you. We'll see you a little bit later on.
Indeed.
Thanks very much indeed.
To deter people, you just need one, and that's the point. You just need to get a few people going to Rwanda to deter the others from being in that small minority of people who will be sent there, because it would have been everyone.
But one of the problems of Rwanda was it wasn't actually for processing. What it was...
But you could expand it. So just like your one-in, one-out scheme, you could expand it and build it. It starts as a deterrent, it builds. Not everything is something at the very start, but things build. It had potential. One-in, one-out has proved to be something that smugglers use as a sort of, if you do get sent back, we'll give you a free journey back. You're not deterring people from getting on the boat at all.
No, you're absolutely right. And the amount of people that have actually made a return journey is more than the government ever suspected.
All right, let's move on to something else, Nigel, which is in the Daily Mail this morning. They're talking about a Labour civil war over special educational needs and disability reform.
Yeah, I mean, this is a real problem one. I mean, the idea is that at the moment that the whole SEND system is overwhelmed. And so the argument is, if you take away some of the minor or the more minor issues, you can concentrate on the more important ones, if a child is blind or something like that. An awful lot of backbenchers are against this because they're worried that kids won't be able to access their education, health and care plans they get at the moment. And a prominent opponent from the Labour side is Helen Hayes, who is the chair of the Commons Education Committee. So what they don't want is this whole thing watered down, and so it is a slight problem of getting the balance right.
But it's a difficult one because you don't want any child with special needs to miss out on something that's
precisely, yeah.
But if we're in effect over-diagnosing or treating something which is very minor and putting them in a full SEND scheme, if you like, it's too much, isn't it?
And I think this is the balance that needs to be struck. You have those with some quite profound special educational needs who do require specialist education settings. But then there are another group of individuals who probably just need a little bit of extra support in schools. And I think that's where schools need to look at what it has in place to help those kids who don't need a specialist setting, but perhaps need a little bit more advanced teaching in some areas, and some kids do, and then they will catch up. But I think that we are probably doing this a little bit too much.
I was going to say part of the problem would be the way the council are spending some of that money. So by giving free taxis here, there and everywhere, they spend millions on just taxing and ferrying kids from one school to another. I think a lot of the budget is...
But that's all to do with SEND. If you can't find a place for a child locally, you've got to get them to a school elsewhere.
But they do it very badly. I know somebody who's got 2 children who both have special educational needs, going to the same school, and they were sending individual taxis until eventually I stepped in and said, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous, yes, that is ridiculous, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, misspending.
Just before we run out of time, Claire, in the Daily Star, it looks like Heineken is reaching places in our wallets that no other beers are reaching.
I mean, it's always the start of a new year, and we look at the price of a pint. Most people are doing dry January, so we start looking at how much this is going to cost. And apparently it's going up by about 2.7%. So drinkers could be facing a £6.20 cost for a pint, which is 16p more at the moment. I mean, it's not clear where those costs are being incurred. I suspect there is an awful lot with green levies on producers of beers and wines and things like that.
Though, isn't it?
It is, but it is always
profit.
one of those things. But it's one of those things that we all look at. Is, you know, what is the price of a pint of milk? What is the price of a pint? Things like that people can quantify how better off they feel or not.
Tell you what strikes me with this. I mean, this is Heineken, which owns Moretti, Amstel, John Smith's, Inch's Cider. All this sort of... So, I mean, it's affecting a massive amount of ranges.
Exactly, and also the 0% lagers that they produce as well will also be affected. So all of those that have chosen not to go for a fully leaded pint are still going to have those costs attached to them.
Yeah. Oh, Nigel.
Well, I mean, the trouble is that pubs are facing so many problems at the moment, what with the increase in business rates and extra staff costs, and all this will do is drive people away from it.
Yeah. All right, you two. Thank you very much indeed. We'll see you a little bit later on.